I want to go into my third topic that I wanted to cover, and that is the wide receiver market. So I'm looking around the wide receiver market in fantasy right now, and I'm seeing a lot of guys in kind of like that low end wide receiver one, high end wide receiver two territory, but it's not clear to me exactly which guys are ahead of who. I'm going to say five guys' names, and I would like you to put them in order of who you want the rest of the fantasy season. Okay. So these guys, and I'm going to throw it up on the screen in a little while. It's Puka, Tank Dell, Mike Evans, Brandon Aiyuk, and Michael Pittman. Brennan, I'd like you to go first here. Let me throw this up for you real quick. All
All right.
right. These are the
So
guys.
I'll start it off with just what I think. I'm gonna go Pittman, then Puka, then Ayuk, then Mike Evans, then Tank Dell. Um, I think Pittman, like we talked about with Josh Downs earlier. Taylor just went down, so they're gonna be focusing more on the pass. Pittman has literally not had. I think he's had one dud game this whole year. Everything else has been double digit fantasy points. He's been one of the safest receivers in the league this year in fantasy. He's looked real good. He's having a breakout year. I'd feel really good if I had him. Um, then Puka. I mean, Cup looks like he's still banged up. He got hurt again last week. I think it was one of his ankles. Stafford is just going to be looking Puka's way. I mean, he's been having a breakout rookie season, one of the best ever. I think he's a talented guy, and I think he's going to be good. Ayuk is on a crowded offense with McCaffrey, Kittle, Debo, but Ayuk has looked like one of literally the best receivers in the league. He's looked amazing this year, and he's going to be uh, what's his Purdy's first read every play, every pass play. Then we got Mike Evans. He's probably having not his best year, probably his second best year. He had that year with Jameis where Jameis threw 30 and 30, famous year. But his second best year of his career with Baker fucking Mayfield. Who would have thought? Mike Evans has looked dominant, and he's been a great red zone threat. And Baker looks his way because Baker just be chunking that bitch up. Sometimes he just when all push comes to shove, he's looking Mike Evans' way, and he's been producing. And then Tank Dell. Not to say that he's last on the list, and that's not a good thing. Tank Dell's a budding rookie superstar in the making. Stroud has looked unbelievable. And I think that while he does have Nico Collins there, I think Tank Dell is on his way if he hasn't already taken over the wide receiver one spot there. Tank Dell's looked very explosive. When he gets the ball into his hands, he just makes shit happen. You would think he's a smaller guy. You would think he wouldn't have that great of a downfield role and not that good of a downfield threat, but he's looked good all over the field whenever he's got the ball at all. So I mean, all of these guys I'd be lucky to have, and I'd be happy to have them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's easier for me to assess this by stating the top and the bottom first, and then it's kind of the middle where it gets hard for me. So I think out of these five guys, for me, the fifth guy, the worst guy out of these five to me is clearly Puka. I think it's pretty clear to me. I think the reason for that is because there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Kyron Williams, and I think he might be Matt Stafford's like new favorite weapon. And you know how Matthew Stafford is whenever he finds a new weapon, he's gonna lock in on him. Um, Puka just really hasn't done anything the last couple weeks, and it's really concerning to me. I think whenever I'm looking at these five guys, I feel the least confident in starting Puka. And then I think that there's one guy out of these five who I think has just elevated himself a little bit higher than the others, and I think that that's Brandon Aiyuk. I think that Brandon Aiyuk, he has that 35-point upside that these other guys have, and I think he has a really safe floor. I think he's a high upside option with a safe floor. Brandon Aiyuk is my top guy out of these. Now the next three is where it gets really hard for me. Whenever I'm looking at Tank, Evans, and Pittman, I'm gonna have to go with Mike Evans at the 2 slot. The reason I'm going with Mike Evans at the 2 slot is because he's proven. We've already seen what he can do for a long period of time, and he's the wide receiver 8 on the year. I mean, he's the wide receiver 8. He's the highest rated wide receiver out of all these guys on the season so far. I'm gonna go with Mike Evans at the 2. The 3 and the 4, I think these guys are dead tied, and I think they're good at different things. I think Pittman is the guy who you want to go with if you need somebody who has a safe floor. That's who Pittman is. He's gonna get you 15. He's not going to get you 30. He's going to get you 15, guaranteed. Plug it into your lineup. He's giving you 15. Tank is the guy who he might give you 10, he might give you 40, right? So if you need a high upside option, I'm starting Tank over Pittman. If you need a guy who's going to give you 15, doesn't have that 40-point upside, I'm going to go Pittman. So I think to round out the list, I would go Aiyuk, Mike Evans, Tank and Pittman tied, depending on the situation you're in, and I'd throw Puka down there at the bottom. Sap, what do you think?
Yeah, so I actually like Mike Evans the most.
Okay.
Um, I don't think yeah, obviously he's ranked the highest, but if you look at it, he only has 2 games under 10 points, and they were early in the season. Ever since then, the dude has been I mean, and even before that, he's been lighting it up. He's clearly the number one target on the team. He's the deep threat who scores a lot of touchdowns, and he's got a high ceiling. Like Pittman consistently, like you said, puts up those 15-point games, but his ceiling is not. I don't know if he has any 30
I
point
think
games.
his highest game might be like 23 or something. It's like he's
Yeah,
right between that like 12 and 25-point range every week.
yeah, and we're rolling into playoffs. Like, give me the guy who, like, obviously his ceiling. I mean, his floor is still high, and his ceiling is high. So
Right.
if I'm rolling into playoffs, I'm taking Mike Evans. Um, Second to me is close. Um, I like Pittman and Ayuk. I would I would probably lean Ayuk because I feel like his ceiling is a little higher.
Mhm.
But I think it's really close. After Ayuk, I would go Pittman, and then the similar to what you said. I think when playoffs come around, it's anybody's game. Doesn't matter if you're the first seed to get in or the last seed to get in. I want the upside. I want my best chance because at the end of the day, it's a gamble. So I would probably take. This one's tough for me. I want to say I would take Tank, but if you look at his last couple games, he scored a touchdown in every single one of them. So to think that that's going to consistently happen every single week is kind of hard to me. I feel like I like Puka as the safer option. I think Tank potentially has the higher ceiling. With that said, I would probably take Puka, and then I would have Tank at the bottom. Just because I don't I think like Brennan pointed out, Cup is definitely not healthy. He looked like he was really struggling. He took a hit on the sideline and he came up and he just looked like he was out there as a decoy after that because he really couldn't do much. We've seen Puka has that high upside too, and Puka can put up 20 plus points without a touchdown. Tank seems like he's really touchdown dependent. So I will take the wide receiver one I project going forward on the Rams over Tank Dell, who I think is the riskier option.